Chronicles of the Grim Reaper, The Path Between Minds, by Griz, Calderon. William was born small and long-limbed, with dark hair that refused to stay flat and sharp, intelligent eyes that were always curious about how things worked. He was a scientific thinker from the start, his bedroom littered with magnets, dismantled radios, and spiral notebooks filled with sketches of contraptions no one else understood. Still, the universe fascinated him. For all his love of provable facts and equations, there was something about the unknown, the vastness of it, that kept tugging at him. And while he found it easy to speak to machines, opening up to people was harder. Even with his parents, who loved him deeply, he kept much of himself locked away. He'd long ago decided that sharing too much only gave people more to find weird about him. So, he asked the universe for signs instead. It became his private ritual. If I should keep going, give me a sign. If this is who I'm meant to be, show me. He never said it aloud, only thought it, and waited. From an early age, the bullying was relentless. They called him Robot, mocked his voice, knocked his books from his hands. It wasn't just words. Sometimes it turned violent. One afternoon, cornered behind the school gym, the other boys shoved him to the ground and kicked until his ribs ached. Lying there, staring at the gravel, William retreated inward. If I should stay, if I should try to be here, give me a sign. When he opened his eyes, he noticed a scrap of aluminum can near the chain-link fence. It had been folded, perhaps by wind, perhaps by chance, into a perfect arrow, pointing toward the library. He got to his feet and followed it. The librarian looked up as he entered, saying nothing as she gestured toward the back shelves. His eyes were drawn to one in particular. He ran his fingers along the spines until they stopped on a familiar volume. An illustrated book on the brain he had read years ago. He flipped it open directly to an image of Broca's area and Wernicke's area, regions responsible for producing and understanding speech. He traced the pathways with his fingertip. There must be a way to carry meaning from one mind to another without sound, he thought. If I can find it, maybe those who can't speak could still be heard. In the corner of the library, unseen by all, the Grim Reaper watched. Cloaked in a shadowy robe that seemed to flow like smoke, his curved scythe resting lightly in one hand, he studied the boy. William's path was dangerously close to the same dark edge another had once walked. It was not his time, and the Reaper could not alter what life would bring, but he could be part of the journey, watching, ensuring there was a way forward. Junior high brought harder tests. The jeers became more creative, the isolation more complete. William learned to avoid the cafeteria, taking lunch in the science lab instead. He built a crystal radio from scavenged parts, fascinated by the way invisible signals could carry voices through the air. On his desk, he taped a note to himself. Information can move unspoken. The thought deepened in high school. He began keeping a notebook labeled Silent Language, filling it with crude diagrams of imagined devices that might translate thought into meaning. But the bullying didn't stop. Sometimes, the weight of it made him wonder if the others were right, that maybe the world would be better without him. Each time that darkness crept in, he asked for a sign. The replies came in ways he couldn't explain. A note slipped into his locker, thanking him for explaining a lab experiment. A flicker of light at the exact moment he considered quitting a project. A stranger's kind word when he least expected it. Someone, or something, was answering. By college, William's focus had sharpened. He studied neuroscience and electrical engineering, living in labs more than dorm rooms. He learned to map the electrical patterns of the brain using EEG to detect magnetic fields with MEG, to chart oxygen use with FNIRs. He discovered that imagined speech activated a predictable network: premotor cortex, inferior frontal gyrus, auditory cortex, before a single sound was made. He began to imagine a device that could read intentional thought and deliver it, securely, to another mind. The work was slow, but each time he questioned it, the signs nudged him forward. Step 1. The interface. William built a hybrid capture system, a soft, flexible MEG cap using dense arrays of room-temperature magnetometers, paired with a ring of near-infrared emitters and detectors for high-density FNIRs. The MEG offered millisecond-level timing. FNIRs gave spatial detail about which regions were active. 2 dry electrode EEG bands near the temples added more data. He learned to filter out motion and heartbeat noise, even using the heartbeat as a calibration point. Step 2. The decoder. Instead of guessing raw words, his model mapped brain signal patterns into a semantic space, a landscape of meaning where related ideas clustered together. Neural recordings were paired with silent speech, imagined pictures, and intentional concepts like help or stop. A neural push-to-talk signal ensured only deliberate thoughts were transmitted. Step 3. The encoder. Communication went both ways. Using safe, non-invasive methods, transcranial-focused ultrasound to nudge auditory cortex, and transcranial alternating current stimulation to prime receptive rhythms. He delivered meaning back into the brain. The recipient didn't hear words forced upon them. They experienced a shape of meaning, clear and voluntary. Step 4. Safety. Each message required mutual opt-in, encrypted with keys unique to the user's neural signatures. Nothing was stored without choice. Passive thoughts were invisible. Sleep was off-limits. Privacy was unbreakable. He named it Signium, a nod to the signs that had carried him here. In the journals where he documented his work, he described Signium simply: a telepathic communication technology built not to intrude, but to connect, making it possible for 2 minds to share meaning without a single word spoken. When Neuralis Technologies approached him, they agreed to his ethics without question. With their resources, Signium moved from lab to world, helping people with locked-in syndrome speak again, allowing cross-language conversation without translation, giving the voiceless a voice. Throughout, the signs continued, small, perfect moments that told him he was still on the right path. He never knew who sent them, only that they never failed him. William lived a long, full life. He never married, but shared his home with people who loved him and plants that seemed always to bloom. As a professor, he taught students not just to innovate, but to protect the humanity in their work. At 98, he lay in his bed by a sunlit window, breathing slowly. A plant on the sill unfurled a single new leaf. He smiled. One last sign. The Grim Reaper entered, tall and still, his dark robe shifting like ink in water, scythe curved and gleaming in his grasp. The unseen mentor's soul stood beside him, luminous with quiet pride. "It's time, William," the Reaper said, his voice deep and steady. "Your journey here is complete." William's breath eased. The world loosened its hold, and another opened its arms. Rising from the body that had carried him, he looked once more at the life he had built. Work that mattered, people who cared, voices once silent, now heard. He turned to the presence who had been with him all along and, without words, said, "Thank you." The answer came, as it always had, a steady hand at his back. "Well done," the Reaper said to the soul who had guided him. "Your work is complete." William and his unseen guide walked beside the Reaper, leaving behind a world where even the quietest voices could finally be heard. The end.